the Bowels of Netflix, where your fearless co-hosts Isaac and Larry force each other to watch the worst pieces of shit on Netflix. We will go over every bad edit, all the broken dialogue, all the wooden acting, and laugh along the way, because this is the Bowels of Netflix! Alright, and welcome to the Bowels of Netflix. I'm Isaac, and with me as always is my fearless co-host Larry. How are you doing this week, Larry?
Oh, I'm just living the fucking dream, man.
Living the dream? You're always living the dream.
This hasn't been a nightmare to organize.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone can tell from the audio quality, but we are experiencing some technical difficulties and have jerry-rigged. Can I say jerry-rigged, or is that offensive to the Krauts?
The term is jury-rigged, like J-U-R-Y.
No, isn't it jerry-rigged? I'm pretty sure.
It's jerry-rigged.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Jerry.
You just want to make fun of the Krauts.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's jerry-rigged, and it actually comes from Germany. I forget why and how. We'll have to look this up off air.
I am almost 100% positive it's jury-rigged.
Yeah, and I'm almost 100% positive the other way.
All right, well, listeners, you write in and tell us that I'm right.
Whoever is wrong has to mail the other one a hot dog.
You are just upset. You were talking about hot dogs last week to me, too. Off
air.
Yeah.
I think about hot dogs a lot. Yeah, I haven't had a hot dog in a while. So if I have to buy an 8-pack of hot dogs, mail you one, that's 7 cold weenies I'll be eating from the fridge.
Fine. We'll look it up in between episodes, and next episode we'll reveal, and the loser has to mail the winner a hot dog. Actually, wait a minute. We both lose.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story of the show. That's the story of our lives.
When you lose, and you will lose, all I'm getting is another fucking hot dog in the mail, and you're getting 7 cold hot dogs. This is almost like you winning. We
could swap if you want. Loser has to receive a hot dog.
I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
we'll get there.
Fine. Yeah,
At any rate, we are the Bowels of Netflix. We're two old friends who hate each other terribly. Every week one of us makes the other one watch a terrible movie, describe it back in excruciating detail. We live online. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter. Those are at Bowels of Netflix. It's the only Bowels of Netflix out there. So you'll be able to find us if you're halfway competent with the internet. You could also send us an email at bowelsofnetflix@gmail.com. We would love to hear your thoughts. And I believe we did get an email, but I think it's about next week's episode, so I'm going to maybe hold off, and just because we're, on the deep web, we have a Chinese slave boy translating back and forth to each other to record this episode, so we don't need to add any more variables into this.
We're also what we're going to call borrowed time. Because this is bound to fail any second. So to make a long story short, literally, and this is not a joke, literally 45 seconds after Isaac and I ended last week's call, when we did our last episode, we talked about things we actually liked, I dropped my laptop, which is my only device, onto the charging cord and pushed the port way in, and I couldn't charge it. Pretty sure it's fixable. It's in the shop right now. I've got Fred and Barney and Hard Dick looking at it right now, but it's still not repaired. But we wanted to not miss a week, so we're using an online service. I'm currently even though I have headphones in my fucking brain with microphones on them, the microphones aren't working for this service. So I'm holding the phone up to my mouth. I look like one of those assholes that's on a New Jersey train screaming about the stock market right now. It's pretty comedy. And honestly, basically what happens is if this disconnects, the whole recording's lost. So we're going to try and keep this one a little swift today and record in chunks to not
nice
lose
and
everything.
Snappy.
Yeah, but I think this one's going to be this one's going to be pretty quick. So
you got another dose of mermaids, is that right?
Yes, and another, to further complicate the show, usually we do movies, but Isaac was in such a haze from having to watch Scales, Mermaids Are Real.
It was a fine film.
His least favorite film to date, if I'm not mistaken.
Literally the worst.
He saw in the related, he saw a little show called H2O, Just Add Water, and in a blinding fury, he thought, I'll show that Larry. and it decided to make me watch the first 3 episodes, and we just call that a movie. It's such a nice change that Isaac has fouled something up for once, and it's not me.
God damn it.
You know?
How do you like this teeny bop Australian TV show about mermaids?
I made some missteps in the history of the show, but Isaac really hasn't. This is his first misstep. I don't know. I would say, ultimately, looking back, I would say I probably liked the package more than I disliked it, even though it wasn't very good. But this one, I don't have many bad things to say about it.
I'm so perplexed. Are you secretly Australian?
No, although I do have a deep love for the country of Australia.
Yeah, I know how much you like Kangaroo Jack. Son of a bitch.
No, I don't like Kangaroo Jack. It's just,
You slept with him.
It was just sex, Isaac.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes you have a one-night stand with a kangaroo that kind of talks, but kind of not.
Okay, so I'm going to look up I don't have because we've been fiddling with recording shit, I don't have everything pulled up. And because I'm using the phone that I'm recording on and holding to my mouth and trying to look up Rotten Tomatoes at the same time. Isaac, could you be a dear and look up H2O Just Add Water on IMDb for me and save me some trouble?
Will gladly do that. And yeah, it's called H2O Just Add Water, which, how can you like anything with that title?
Rotten Tomatoes is kind of useless because there's not enough ratings for a tomato meter, and the audience score, for some reason, says coming soon, release date 2006, so not quite sure the story.
That might be a little outdated. Yeah, Jesus goddamn Christ, I guess I didn't check this. It's got a 7.2 out of 10. And you'd think, for an Australian, sitcom, whatever, it might not have, it might have 20 ratings or something. It's got 12,000 ratings, and it's a 7.2. I guess this is beloved.
This show is beloved. You took the words out of my mouth. This is... it's funny, because my best friend and I we just took a long walk to look at a house he's thinking about buying. And we were on the way, I was mentioning how I just watched some of this. And he was saying, when I brought it up, he's like, oh, that show, there's girls at my work who talk about that show. And he said the one time... these 2 girls at work were talking about this show, and he works at a restaurant, and one of the customers leaned over and said, hey, my daughter and I watched that show. It's great. Isaac, you fucked up. This show is not bad at all.
How is that remotely possible?
This, and I don't, now, again, unfortunately, I would have loved to talk about some of the backstory a little more, but like I said, we're on borrowed time with this recording. Hoo-ha. So I have to kind of limit it. But I know the show only had 2 seasons, and audiences clamored for a 3rd. People really liked this, Isaac.
Clamored for H2O Just Add Water.
Yeah. There's a Netflix animated show they made, which I think it's just a remake of this, which I can't speak to. There's a movie, which I think is, again, just basically an extended episode of the show. And there's a follow-up show, which follows different characters. But yeah, I mean, I don't really... You fucked up, man. It's
God damn it.
And we'll talk about all the reasons why. But, Isaac, I might watch all of the show.
Jesus Christ. No. I was in such a mermaid daze. I just wanted you to suffer like I suffered from Scales.
I'm not going to lie. I'm definitely going to watch all of Season 1.
We'll
God.
See about the rest. You're disgusting.
Yeah, well, speaking of disgusting, let's get this out of the way right off the bat. These actresses are either 17 or 18, but I think the characters they're portraying might be 15.
Now, Larry, what's the legal age down under?
I specifically did not look. And at no point am I going to make any sort of judgments based on their appearance or any sexual situations involving them.
They're lovely young ladies.
Themselves. Isaac may lick the screen, but I am comfortable in saying that these actresses were not viewed by me in any way other than for their acting talent.
No, it's not an HD. It's not screen-licking worthy.
No, it is not an HD. This show, and I should still get some of the details out. It ran from 2006 to 2009. And I guess the 3 stars kind of spiraled off into mild fame, I think. I don't know. It's hard to say because a lot of the things they talk about I'm not familiar with. I did ask a friend of mine who lives in Australia, who I've been friends with now for, 4 years, if he'd heard of this, and he knew immediately what I was talking about. And he said it was very popular in Australia. And he said it was not popular, and he kind of lives in a small town in sort of the middle of nowhere. And he said wasn't really popular around him, but like he's not very close to the water, so he thinks that might have something to do with it. I don't know. But
possibly.
Anyway, Hydra, if you're listening, I miss you, buddy. Let's play some Valheim when I have a working computer again. But anyway, and I wanted to have him on to potentially explain to me some Australian concepts that didn't make sense to me. But obviously, I can barely even get a fucking recording together. So, but anyway, yeah, I don't see any need to really drag this out. I mean, let's just fucking jump in.
Let's dive in like a couple of mermaids.
A trio of mermaids, because as the theme song says, things are better when they come in threes. So, episode 1, Metamorphosis, opens with our theme song, which is No Ordinary Girl. It is terrible. But, I mean, it's a fucking teenage girl TV show theme song that you hear 30 seconds of once a week, so I guess whatever. We see our 3 heroines running around Australia, turning into mermaids. And, by the way, Isaac, apparently they also have magic. Not sure if you know that.
Yeah,
but these girls have superpowers.
Like water superpowers, like fucking Siren did from Scales?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's going to be a big plot point, and so we'll get to it later. But I didn't know if that... I was sort of surprised by that, but apparently mermaids having powers... I guess that's common. Half human, half fish. I'd never really thought, like, they're also magic. I don't know. But
never gotten into mermaid lore.
No, nor I, believe it or not. As a white boy living in Pennsylvania, mermaids were not high on my list of interests. The opening is nothing special, but we do see that the 4th billing is a boy behind our 3 lead actresses. I'm going to call him Bucket Hat. He wears a bucket hat.
Oh, boy.
I hope you're not tired of that joke yet, because that's basically the only joke I have. We open with one of our girls, Emma, diving into the swimming pool. She is swimming laps in a pool with the row dividers like professionals use, being timed by another of our heroes, Cleo. I briefly thought of funny names to call them, but honestly it doesn't really work out, and you'll see why. They do sort of have Seven Dwarf-esque personality traits, but the difference is because it's a show, they actually get to develop more than those, just like that one trait. They're like, when what was the one, the movie, the Eli Roth, what's the Eli Roth? Cabin Fever. The characters in Cabin Fever were all one note, which this is sort of a unique sort of thing to this show so far, is because we've only been doing movies. This is a TV show, so everybody gets a little more developed. You know, even though they all have like a base trait, like Cleo is dopey, for example, but it gets more developed. Even in the 3 episodes I saw, it gets more developed. Even there's, I think 75 episodes, so clearly these things, a good show will build upon that, and I'm pretty sure this one's going to, but I don't know. Maybe we'll have a follow-up when I've watched the whole thing. So we're going to stick with names for now. Emma is pleased with how fast she swam her laps, because she's a competitive swimmer, apparently, and which, by the way, if I've ever mentioned this, I absolutely love Australian accents, because Australia is my second favorite country behind America. Yes, I will beat it into the dirt, but I still love this country for some stupid reason, and I'm sure the older I get, the more that's going to be taken from me.
So now, Larry, do you get turned on when I talk my Australian accent? Down to the Macas?
If we're being honest, Isaac, if you and I had to make love, I would rather make love to you using your Australian accent.
All right, Larry, bend over.
No. Can I change my answer, Alex? Oh, he's dead. Rest in peace. So Cleo is on her way home, I guess, walking through a dock. A greasy boy with villain hair calls her over to a little speedboat. I mean, it's like... Okay, I don't know a ton about boats, so I had to look this up. He calls it a Zodiac, and I looked it up, and a Zodiac makes rigid inflatable boats, which actually helped a lot, because I did not know how to describe it otherwise. But the words rigid inflatable boat, exactly.
Yep.
Try to describe that without using those words.
Tumescent inflatable boats.
It's like raft with motor is the only thing I can think of, and that really doesn't do it justice. So Zodiac is like the Kleenex of the rigid inflatable boat world, I guess. So, because it's a real thing, I suppose. Anyway, Obvious Villain, which is that character's name now, asks Cleo to help him with it by passing him tools, as the spark plug to the boat has been stolen. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned really, but everybody in the show who isn't one of the parents is like 16. The characters are supposed to be anyway. So
Saved by the Bell Mermaid Edition. Yeah,
pretty much. Again, still have not seen a single second of Saved by the Bell, so please keep making references to it because I will never know them, and that sounds like comedy to me.
I also have not seen it. I've seen like clips in shows that are talking about it, but I've not seen an episode.
We should exclusively make references to shows and movies we've never actually seen. Jesus Christ. So Cleo gets browbeaten into helping Obvious Villain and gets into the boat to pass in the tools out of it onto the dock. However, Obvious Villain instead unties the boat from the dock and pushes it adrift. He says he was, quote, getting tired of that thing anyway, unquote. His boat, I suppose. I feel like, I don't know. This even is like bullying villainy. This seems confusing.
That's
Cleo
strange,
says, why me? I didn't steal your spark plug. I also cannot do an Australian accent. Like I said, they all eventually become Mario. You just gotta live with it. Obvious Villain says, because you're here, Cleo. And thus a sociopath is born. He shouts to her that if she can get the boat going, she can keep it. Cleo seemingly either can't swim or decides she doesn't want to get wet because she just sort of sits down and decides that being on a boat is her life now. All of a sudden, another blonde teenage girl leaps off the dock and onto the boat. Cleo asks if this is a rescue of some sort, which is dumb because the engine won't go. However, blonde teenager reveals that she is the one who stole the spark plug. Blondie, whose name is Ricky, like as in Ricky Don't Lose That Number, a song by Steely Dan that none of you have heard, says that obvious villain is an obvious villain and he deserves everything coming to him. So Ricky fixes the Zodiac and then does a cool guy drift move that splashes obvious villain with water. And if you don't know what I mean, think harder, you'll get it. Cleo and Ricky briefly talk. Apparently Ricky is the new girl in school, and Cleo hasn't made any efforts to go make nice with her. But Ricky thinks that's okay anyway. We get a boat driving montage before they come across Emma, the swimmy girl from the first scene, who they offer a ride. Emma and Ricky butt heads a bit, and let's take a second to go over their personalities. So like I said, they all sort of have seven dwarf personalities to talk about. Emma is the bossy one, Ricky is the rebellious one, and Cleo is the ditzy one. That is sort of like the baseline idea of who they are. But again, like I said, be it either decent writing or just the fact that they have more time to develop it because it's a TV show, they're more than just that. It would be unfair to just call them that. It would help in maybe keeping them straight, but it wouldn't be right because that's not all they are. Whereas
it's kind of their initial or dominant characteristic, but then they're fleshed out a lot more as time goes. That makes sense.
Especially with Cleo. In these 3 episodes, with Cleo especially, we'll see. She gets the most fleshing out in this time. So since we need some kind of excuse to turn these teenage girls into mermaids, the boat runs out of fucking gas or the engine stalls, I don't know. Either way, they're adrift in the ocean. Nearby is a big island, apparently called Mako Island. Ricky wants to go there, because remember, she's new in town, but the other girls protest, saying it's haunted, surrounded by sharks, nobody goes there, it's a lair of rapists, that's where the Nazis have a secret hidden base, that's where the Russians have been hiding nukes, etc., etc., you know how it goes. So, on the beach of Mako Island, bossy Emma and rebel Ricky argue about whose fault it is and how they got stuck on this mysterious tropical island in what is seemingly in the middle of fucking nowhere. I don't know, just they were like in this boat, which clearly is not meant for the ocean, and they go out into the ocean and now are just in the middle of the fucking nowhere ocean in this island, which also seems like it might be like 2 miles offshore. It really doesn't make much sense. And like clearly they didn't... I'm not sure... this is another reason why I want to watch this. I'm curious that if further episodes elaborate on where the fuck this island is spatially in the universe.
I doubt that.
Yeah, I bet they do. I bet you they do, Isaac.
I'll bet you a hot dog in the mail.
You just want hot dogs? Are you hungry?
Yes, I haven't had dinner yet.
Oh, shit, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
We're getting a very late start. It's all my fault.
No. I had snacks earlier. I'm not even that hungry. I just want hot dogs because we've been talking about them.
You keep bringing it up.
Yeah, because I'm hungry.
You wanted to mail hot dogs to celebrities?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to know who are the celebrities you had in mind, because the one that jumps into my head immediately, I'm curious if it's the one that jumps into your head.
Well, my thought is the person most likely to eat it when they just get it unsolicited in the mail, and that's Roseanne Barr.
Oh, see, I was going to say Steven Seagal.
Oh, well, yeah, no, that's pretty good.
My first thought was Johnny Depp, but I don't know. He's such in the news. I don't want that to become a news story, and then we end up in jail or something. Isn't Roseanne Barr in jail? Or no, she's in Twitter jail. Never mind.
Yes, Twitter jail.
So yeah, the girls are arguing. Obviously, the whole thing is Ricky's fault because she's the rah-rah, let's have an adventure girl. So she blows it off and finds Emma's bossy worriness to be grating. Emma has a cell phone, a cute little 2005 flip job, and the three try to head for higher ground to get some cell signal. Again, like I said, Mako Island is 100% fucking jungle and a dormant volcano, by the way. And just like, I guess it's close enough that they can get cell signal if they're on a hill? I don't fucking know. It doesn't make any sense. So the girls are wandering around in the jungle. Banter, 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 bicker, bicker, bicker. Eventually they end up at a little waterfall ravine, and Cleo ends up slipping and falling down a cave that slides into a little grotto with a pool of water. Emma goes down to, quote-unquote, get her. Not sure what that's fucking supposed to mean, since Cleo says she can't climb back up the steep cave. But, hey, Emma's a hero. Doesn't need to think plans through. And, of course, all three end up in the grotto. Eventually, Emma figures she will try swimming through the little pool of water to see if there's an opening on the other side. It's very video gamey thinking, but also kind of awesome to think about in real life, that you could swim in a pool of water. Imagine you're in a swimming pool, and you swim to the bottom, and there's a fucking cave that, like, dumps out into the next swimming pool over. Like, that'd be the coolest thing in my childhood I could possibly think of. It must be neat to live in, like, a place with actual, stuff and not just fucking suburbia.
That is true. And once I'm ruler of the world and have my own harem, I'm going to have two pools that are connected like that, and you can come over and swim.
What does the harem have to do with that?
I just want to keep it in the forefront of my wife's consciousness that the harem is inevitable.
Well, she must be so happy.
Yeah, well, I don't want to become ruler of the world, and then all right, I'm going to get my harem started, and she's like, honey, what? It's like, bitch, we talked about this.
She must just wake up every morning, just think, I made the right choice.
Yeah, sobbing. That's why people sob, right? When they're happy? I don't feel emotions.
I haven't felt emotions in a very long time. Emma swims to the other side. She finds out there's a cave, then they can get out of here. Emma comes back. It's a 20-second swim to get out of the cave. Cleo reveals that she, in fact, cannot swim.
Oh, God.
Cleo's the dopey one, kind of. But they really have no other options, so she eventually gets talked into it. All three girls are in the water, so you can say goodbye to that cute little 2005 flip phone, by the way. They never really bring that up. I swear to God, if I see it in the other scenes, I'm going to be pissed off. As the girls are in the water, suddenly the moon is high overhead of them, and the pool begins to bubble and roil. They kind of don't acknowledge it, other than just saying, like, ooh, spooky, and then they leave. For not knowing how to swim, Cleo does a pretty solid job at swimming through this cave, but hey, what do I know? They emerge in the ocean and are found immediately by the water police.
The what?
You may think I'm being funny, but the boat actually says, this is the water police.
Not the ocean police?
It's the water police, Isaac.
What? Larry? What?
They're like a little rescue. They're like a Miami Vice police rescue boat, basically, I'm going to call it.
Yeah, but do they have jurisdiction over my mother's footbath? I mean, they are the water police.
I mean, if they... Yes, they're the water police.
God
they
damn.
Exclusively say water police in this entire show.
That's so stupid. I wonder if that's an Australian thing or just a stupid thing. Well, I mean,
I don't know. I
both.
didn't question that. I should have. So we cut to the next day, and Emma's like about to jump in the ocean for a swim. So I guess we're not going to talk about the fact that these girls were missing for a whole day, were found in the middle of the fucking ocean, and picked up by the water police, and then just like went home and their parents were fine with it.
Yeah, Larry, this sounds pretty stupid.
Actually, hold on a minute. I'm just putting the pieces together. They swim out of that grotto. It's a 20-second swim and end up in the middle of the ocean. Away from the island.
With Cleo, who can't swim but can swim? Come on, man. This is awful.
I'll grant you, the setup is pretty shitty. That's pretty dumb. I never put that together in my head until right now. Well, see, again, though, like, that's the thing. Like, okay, so now they're mermaids. Spoiler, fucking the next scene they're going to be mermaids. But, like, again, this is a show with a lot of time left in the show. Like, that part is just one dumb scene. It's not like that is a sixth of the movie, you know? That's like a 100th 120th of the show. So
right.
It's a lot easier to forgive, I guess.
Although
maybe. That is immensely stupid. So we never really a water police. I guess they get in the water police's boat. They're fucking half hammered, I suppose. Drop these girls off and then I don't know, head to fucking Tijuana, I suppose. Who fucking knows. I guess their parents were just fine with it. I don't know. I'm shocked they didn't go with the route of having like all the talks of like you're irresponsible and you've got no. See, that's just English. And you're irresponsible. You've got to hit the turtle. Woohoo!
Down at the Macas.
So, yeah. I'll have to wait. All right, give me the phrase. I'm gonna work on it right now.
Down at the Macas. Oh man, I forget the whole thing. Down at the Macas. I get hard. I eat my French fries. Like the little boys sit on my lap.
Down to the Macas. I ate my French fries and like the little boys sit on my lap.
And I get hard.
They get hard.
Yeah, so you're getting it now, Larry. Not bad at all.
All right. No,
got to get it up in your nose.
Well, I got a little English. It's gonna go English so fast.
It's hard.
So am I. So yeah. Anyway, I guess because they really wanted to get mermaid transformations in the first episode, so I guess they didn't want to dick around with the fucking water police. They faffed about too long to have an extended "you're grounded from stealing boats" scene. So like I said, Emma jumps into the ocean. After a few seconds, she starts to change, and the change is like they describe it later as they turn into water when they change, and it's like that's their like Sailor Moon transformation from regular schoolgirl into Sailor Scout, although in this case mermaid. But it's kind of inconsistent with how it changes, like depending on the needs of the scene. So in this case, because she's underwater and they're still trying to like, I don't know, I think they're trying to keep some sort of mystery to it. Like it just the water kind of bubbles, and then all of a sudden she has a tail and like a scaly bikini top. And before we talk about those, let's just get through all of them, and then we'll talk about the mermaids itself. We cut to Cleo, who is in the bathtub, looking supremely freaked out now that she has a big ass mermaid tail instead of legs.
Oh no!
All this while her little sister is pounding on the door and tells her to stop monking off. Cleo shouts back, "Monk what off? It's gone, you little twat!" Okay, I'm sorry, I had to get one in there. I had to get one, but I'm done now. I'm done, I swear.
Hey, everyone's allowed to monk one off themselves with no one watching at any age. We just can't know about it.
It's true. I never want to know about anything anyone does. Actually, I want to know about everything everyone does. I'm a terrible hypocrite. We also see Ricky walking by a sprinkler and gets a CGI drop of water on her hand, and then, in the middle of suburbia, becomes a mermaid and just falls over onto her face. And somehow nobody sees this.
For fuck's sake. That's kind of stupid, but I kind of like it.
In the next scene, all three girls are back at, I think, Cleo's place, discussing what happened, and they're all human again. They mention that drying off completely allowed them to flip back from mermaid to human. So we're not just going to fucking show how Ricky got out of that situation? Did she just flop around in the grass like a largemouth bass and just until she was dry enough to become a human again?
Yeah, well, there's probably just a button that turns you back and forth, like the clitoris.
I was gonna say the clitoris. Yes, thank you. Yeah. These are Cleo's 17.
Well, also, where is the clitoris on a mermaid?
That's a great question. Well, that was my joke about it. I can't monk off; it's gone. I don't know. Mermaids giving birth has never made any sense to me because it's almost like they're not real creatures.
Yeah. Well, yeah, almost.
Which that would be silly. So the girls talk about the rules of mermaiddom, and they've figured it out. 10 seconds after they hit the water, they turn into water, weird transition, and then they grow their mermaid tails instead of legs. And Emma thinks this is a load of horse shit, despite becoming a mermaid herself. I don't know. So suddenly, Lewis arrives to study with Cleo. Lewis is Bucket Hat. Even though he's not wearing his bucket hat in this scene, he's rarely seen on camera without his bucket hat.
Good old faithful bucket hat.
Lewis is basically like I'm going to call him their valet. He's the token human. So like he's the straight man to the mermaid antics. like, we'll talk about it because he doesn't know they're mermaids yet. Spoiler, yet. But, like, that's his role, clearly, is to be, like, he's the Charlie to their angels. You know?
Oh, good lord.
So Cleo tells Lewis to get lost, but not before asking him if he knows anything about mermaids, to the irritation of the other girls, who obviously know they need to keep this secret. Ricky wants to try and figure out more about their condition, which Emma agrees with, but Cleo is very against the whole idea. Emma and Cleo go test it out Emma and Ricky go test it out to become mermaids again. We get a whole montage of them swimming around, which I guess now is a good time as any to talk about the tails. They're fine. Honestly, they're fine. Like, I really tried to complain about it, just because, you know, I'm trying to do a show here. But, like, it's hard to... You can only make a quote-unquote real mermaid out of a human, so realistic looking, because...
Right.
I mean,
I imagine
person.
There's obviously no CGI, so it's just pretty decent costume work.
No, the show has CGI, but their costumes are not. Like, it's actual tails they're wearing. And they look good. I mean, you know, you can tell that, like, if you were making a CGI mermaid, it would look better, because they have to account for the fact that these girls have real human legs.
Right, yeah.
So, like, the tail looks a little bit lopsided, but, like, for what they're working with, for a show that is, like, the draw, looks pretty good, actually. Like, the prop work was solid. And I examined the tails as much as I could in every scene they were in to see if I could tell, like, if I could see, like, a thigh crammed in there at an odd angle or something, or, like...
A button comes undone.
No, like, they're just... Yeah, they're solid.
All right.
I feel like the girls had a hard time actually swimming in them. It seems like, anyway. Because whenever they're, like, swimming where it's not an effect, it looks really exaggerated. Like, you know how a dolphin swims, sort of, like, up and down?
Right.
It's like that, but, like, I feel like they have to try a lot harder because they've got, like, 40 pounds of tail that they're, like, really have to account for. I don't know. And you can, if you don't, just pull this up on Netflix and just watch one of it's in the opening, like, them swimming. See if I'm crazy. I don't know much about swimming, really, so maybe I'm just wrong, but they have to, like really exaggerated sine wave motions to get through it, so I don't know.
From what you're describing, it reminds me, it's probably very similar to Scales, Mermaids Are Real, because it was I thought it was stupid and ridiculous, but it didn't look cartoonishly bad. But at the same time, this is a sitcom TV show that maybe had $100,000 budget an episode, if that. And Scales Mermaids Are Real was a feature film for $25 million budget.
Oh my god, I forgot about the price of that. I just remembered now that was, yeah. No, and I mean, I talk about it a little later, because the CGI is mostly good, too. Like, you know, it's aged, because it's from 2006.
Right, and it's a TV show, but, like, if you adjust for that, all right.
Like, clearly a lot of time and effort went into, like, somebody who was working at this show, like, sat at a table and said, okay, these tails are going to be in every episode and on full display, so, like, we got to do it right. We got to do a good job. We can't half-ass it. And they did. It looks, you know, it's probably as good as you can do with what you've got for what they had. And I really don't have any complaints. And I really tried, because it's the easiest fodder in the world to make fun of the stupid fucking tails. So Ricky and Emma are having ocean fun, while Bucket Hat is down at the local knockoff Rainforest Cafe / Internet Cafe with a row of what appears to be old Apple Macintosh computers. I don't know. It's a weird joint.
Like the multicolored ones?
Yeah, with, like, the green backgrounds.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a weird fucking place, and they're in there. That's like their malt shop. That's their Scooby-Doo malt shop, is this weird knockoff Rainforest Cafe that never gets a name.
That's so weird.
And it's strange. It's very strange. Bucket Hat tells Cleo he started looking into mermaids after she mentioned it, and gives a bunch of pointless mermaid jargon that I don't give a fuck about and doesn't apply to us. Obvious Villain shows up on a dirt bike and actually tries to kill them by running them down.
Jesus.
He bitches that the water police knocked on his door last night and pissed his dad off, to which Cleo tells him he shouldn't have told her to keep the Zodiac. So, what exactly were the water police investigating here? Like, the disappearance of the boat? The girls? Like, what was the transaction that the water police were performing when they went in this investigation. Like, I'm curious because it's like seems to define the relationship between obvious villain and the girls, but like
almost sounds like a gaping plot hole.
A little bit, yeah, for sure. This is a show about mermaids, so I don't know what you're fucking expecting.
I'm expecting you to hate it.
I wish I could, Isaac. I wish I could.
Fucking
Obvious
slag.
Obvious villain and bucket hat have a little. I'm calling a guy bucket hat for Christ's sakes. What do you want from me here? I'm trying. Okay, I give and I give and I give and I give, and this is the 1 week I don't have anything to give. So you got to deal with bucket hat.
All right.
Obvious villain and bucket hat have a little confrontation and piss and moan with one another. We see Cleo is staring at a fire hydrant, and all of a sudden she starts turning her hand around and makes the hydrant come loose and spray obvious villain with a gigantic fount of water that knocks him into the sea, which, as we know from any child show, being knocked into the sea is how you defeat your villains. And if you don't believe me, watch any single episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's how they defeat literally every single villain except the final boss.
Why is there a fire hydrant that close to the sea?
Probably because you don't spray seawater all over everything you know and love. I don't know, man.
You're just putting the fire out.
That's a good question.
I'm pretty sure beach fire companies have like, let's just put this hose in the ocean and we'll pump that water because that's way more efficient than building a fire hydrant on the beach.
Listen, that's a great question, but one of the problems with this show is, like I said, with the Mako Island thing, I don't think they film in the same locations. I don't think that fire hydrant is actually near any water.
Right, I know, but I'm still angry.
And it's sure. I don't know enough about real life fire hydrants to know whether or not that's true.
Well, you should have done your homework, Larry.
I don't have a laptop.
Go down to the library, pull out some microfiche.
I'm holding this phone to my mouth like a dickhead in New Jersey. So we get another scene of the girls gathering together to share info. Cleo shows them that she has the power to manipulate water by making a glass of water, like she makes the water in it grow, and like a big tentacle of water rises up from it. I said Weird. I wouldn't make jokes. I said I wouldn't make jokes. I said I wouldn't make the obvious jokes. It doesn't make sense either because like she's making more water than was in the cup. And Ricky even says like, where does the extra water come from? And before she can answer, she loses control or it falls over and it's about to fall on the other two girls. And Emma throws her hands up in the air like she just don't care. And the water freezes. So Cleo can control water and Emma can freeze water.
Oh, Jesus. They have different powers?
And Ricky seemingly doesn't have any special powers yet. And she's pissed about it. We have a little, yay, we're mermaids, but it has to be a secret so we don't get literally dissected by the government, which is very true. And the episode ends.
Well, shit. Larry, you're a madman. You sicken me. You like this.
I mean, we have 2 more episodes to get through, but
all right.
It's really not bad. And I'll talk about it more as we go along. But looking back, like saying it out loud, the origin story is pretty dumb.
Thank you.
And it really gets no explanation. But I think it's kind of interesting that it's not. And I'll talk about it. I know I have written down some of the reasons, my questions and thoughts about specifically their powers.
Well, I guess let's plow ahead to episode 2 if you're ready.
Yeah, fuck it. Episode 2, pool party. We start with Emma at the bathtub, laying in it as a mermaid, irritated. If you recall, Emma's entire personality basically revolved around being on the swim team, so this is a big problem for her. Cleo is cleaning her fish tank. I can't get the fucking Bill Cosby. I know it's Theo, but every time I see the word Cleo, I just think, Cleo! God damn it. She's cleaning her fish tank and accidentally gets wet and goes full mermaid.
Oh, God.
All while the little sister is once again knocking on the door demanding to be fucking let in. I hate this little sister. I think this is her last appearance of note for what I saw, but the whole bit of someone knocking relentlessly on a door, I have always hated that bit. Always. It drives me insane. The thought of that in real life makes me want to punch that person in the face.
Well, now I know how to get under your skin.
If I'm in the shitter and someone is pounding on the door relentlessly, I just wish a plague upon them. A worse one than the one we're actually suffering through right now. So We see Emma still has the goddamn cute 2005 flip phone, so fucking explain to me how that survived being underwater for 20-plus seconds. Those
Jesus
things, looking at that phone and thinking about water would break it. Ricky is out swimming as a mermaid, having fully embraced that mermaid life, though. The girls all get together, and Cleo bitches that moisturizer is 70% water, and therefore they can never use it again. This is a teenage girl show, so, I guess whatever.
Har har.
We'll get into that a bit later in the questions section. Cleo and Emma are pretty upset about their life and the changes, but Ricky is soups into it. Cleo wants to tell people about this dopey Cleo, and once again, the two other girls have to talk her down with all the intelligent reasons why not to. Most importantly being that they will get literally dissected by the government, which they keep bringing up, and yeah, that's probably very true.
I don't know if the Australian government does that. That sounds like a U.S. and / Russia kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, us definitely. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you do about that. I guess you'd probably dissect them for the good of the...
Well, dissect one. It's like fuck, marry, kill.
Nope, 17 and 18.
Said it's like that.
Yeah, it's true. Wow. What's the fuck, marry, kill version? Dissect...
study, and...
Impregnate?
Yeah, probably. Dissect, study, and impregnate.
Jesus Christ. This is the worst.
That's how the creature from the Black Lagoon got created. Is a mermaid fucked a regular person. Just got flipper hands.
I think it was a couple episodes. I think we were talking about mermaids for 6 months.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about mermaids. And I also watched the new season of Disenchantment, which is also heavily mermaid based.
Oh, really? I got to see that.
It's not very good. We talk about what happens if you cut a mermaid in half exactly where the mermaid becomes human.
Right.
If the top half gets robot legs, is it still a mermaid?
Interesting.
Did we talk about that? Because I've been thinking about it for a year.
I know we talked about the meat and what, like surf and turf, and would there be a transition or a clean line? I don't think we talked about... If same thing with like a centaur.
If you cut a mermaid where the tail meets the taut stomach of a lady mermaid, or a merman, let's just say mermaid. That's the catch-all. If you gave the top half of a mermaid, if it lived, and you gave it robot legs, is it still half mermaid?
Okay. Here's the real experiment. Get a mermaid, cut off the bottom half. Get a centaur, cut off the top half, throw that top half in the trash. So the mermaid top half on the centaur bottom half, and what do you have?
A mistake.
Now that's science.
This segment brought to you by Joseph Mengele. Pretty sure he tried that exact thing.
Welcome to Dr. Mengele's Science Corner.
Oh, God. We need to fire him. Why did we bring him on as a consultant?
It's a children's show. I'm like Bill Nye, but very evil.
Yeah, well, at least he knows it. Jesus. We get to school, and the popular girl, whose name is meaningless, is throwing a party for Byron, the local hunk, H-U-N-K. Can't say that word with a mouthful of spit, which I have pretty much all the time. And top surfer in the area, who he's also 16, I guess, but he looks like he might be 23. He shows up later. But popular girl is, of course, a bitch to our mermaids, Ricky in particular. Bucket Hat shows up, and Cleo can barely keep the secret about being a mermaid because she's a bit of a ditz. Popular Girl reminds everyone that the party is going to be, believe it or not, based on the episode title, a pool party. Cleo is begging the other girls to go, but obviously they tell her, no, you can't fucking go, you lunatic. You turn into a mermaid and you touch water. Cleo keeps bringing up that if they tell Bucket Hat, he can just keep an eye on things for them and basically be their handler. He can be the Charlie to their angels.
Right.
Instead of just, instead of a cool, mysterious voice on a speaker, it's a pasty Australian boy in a bucket hat. If you're not familiar with Charlie's Angels, don't bother. None of it's good.
Yeah.
While the girls discuss, Emma changes her mind and wants to go to the party after all to support Hunky Byron because surfing is just like swimming. And if you recall, Emma's whole personality is based on being on the swimming team. Also, she wants to cut off a slice of that man meat, baby! Which is obvious, but of course it is. They discuss a little more and decide to do some tests on their powers to figure out the specifics of it. Our heroines go down to the beach. Cleo insists she won't swim, so the other two go into the water and try to concentrate on not transforming. My yelling has upset the dog, and he's looking up at me as if I'm about to beat him.
Aw, poor Seamus.
Bucket Hat shows up unrelated with his fishing rod. Apparently this is his secret fishing spot. I mean, he has a bucket hat, and bucket hat men fish.
This is known.
I was a bucket hat boy. That's why I'm so successful and popular now. I really did. I did have a bucket hat. I was a bucket hat kid. And if that doesn't say everything you need to know about me, well, there you go.
It's good to not get sunburned.
No, I still got sunburned.
Well, of course you did.
Yeah, well, the running gag... Oh, God. My life is a cacophony of sadness. The running gag to this episode, by the way, is that Cleo has changed her mind about going to the pool party in basically every scene. I'm just going to get it out of the way now because it's solid 4 minutes of runtime are dedicated to that bit.
It's a lot of shtick.
Her telling Bucket Hat that she either is or isn't going. And Bucket Hat is going to join the girls for a swim, but Ricky and Emma tell him that they're naked. He still wants to because he's, 16, but they tell him to get lost. He goes home and furiously masturbates. It's not on camera, but I mean, if you've ever been a 16-year-old boy, you know that is precisely what he has done when he got home.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So back at one of the houses, Emma and Cleo are bitching about how their lives are over. They do a lot of bitching, and I bring it up a lot because it's sort of prevalent everywhere. But honestly, it's pretty grounded, and they're not grating. Like, it's not like, it's not like the evil stepsisters from Cinderella. It's like, they're, Emma's whole life is basically over and she's going to say, I think it's this scene where she says that she has been training to be a swimmer since she was 6 months old, which, I mean,
yeah, no.
Gotta hope that's an exaggeration. But, so it's her whole bit. She can't be on the swim team anymore because she's a fucking mermaid whenever she gets wet. And I know what you're thinking. Save it. We'll talk about it at the end.
I can empathize, though. That'd be like if my wife Lorena bobbited me. Like, what would my purpose be?
Honestly, it's an interesting thought to think about. Like, if your whole life is building up towards one thing, it's like when a football player loses the ability to play football, or a wrestler, for example. Stone Cold Steve Austin. People know him. I don't need to go too deep into wrestling nerddom. He had to have spinal fusion surgery, has not been able to wrestle since. That was like fucking 10, 15 years ago. Well,
yeah, I'm sure that's heartbreaking.
That might be 20. Like, just losing an entire, life purpose thing. It's like if I was a writer, which was my dream since I was a kid, and I had no hands anymore and couldn't write, barring any other way to write. But, just that sort of thing. So, and the same thing with Cleo. Cleo is bitches a lot. She doesn't really have, a sort of a driving goal like Emma did, but it's deeply affecting her life. And so it's not, they bitch constantly, and Ricky calls them out for it in this scene, but it's not, it makes sense. It's yeah, okay, I get it. And it's not, they're not annoying about it. It's,
yeah.
It furthers the story, and it's, because that's normally the kind of thing that would drive me crazy, but I realized with the second watching when I was doing the review, I'm not bothered at all by this. It just makes sense. But they're using their powers to drink water out of the air so they don't get wet and freeze orange juice into an ice pop. And Ricky's like, you basic bitches won't stop fucking whinging, and you have magical powers and are mermaids. I'm just a mermaid. Y'all can fuck off. And she just leaves. So at the knockoff Rainforest Internet Cafe, Cleo and Bucket Hat are talking when hunky surfer Byron comes in. Obvious Villain and Bucket Hat have a little back and forth argument and threatening each other here, and Byron steps in and cools tempers off because apparently Byron is the nicest guy on Earth. Every time they talk about Byron, besides just being hunky and popular and the best surfer in town, they also say they make a point to say how he's the nicest person in existence. So either he's going to be part of the fucking mystery squad later, or he's the secret villain.
Is he portrayed by Keanu Reeves?
No, he's portrayed by a hunky young Australian dude with hair a lot like yours, actually, when you were younger.
Keanu could have done it.
Keanu's, I think, isn't Keanu 77 years old?
Close. I mean, yeah, but this is a while ago.
It's 15 years ago. Not that long ago. So Bucket Hat's annoyed that Cleo keeps changing her mind about going or not, Emma is at home and her parents come in and put way too much pressure on her not being at practice today because she's not at swimming practice because she's a fucking mermaid, as we may have forgotten.
Of course.
And her dad's like, oh, you even swam when you broke your arm and you were, there's like some other example he gave, or when she had like the flu or pneumonia or something. And like, so they're putting all this pressure on her, and her mom mentions that she spent a lot of time locked in her bedroom and bathroom, starting to give what I swear to God might be the sex talk. I genuinely think that.
Lord.
Before Emma storms off since she's moody and mermaidy. See what I did there? See what I did?
Yeah,
I'm very unhappy with myself.
I'm proud of you.
Meanwhile, Cleo, I want to say thanks, but it's like, God, it's like telling my dad I killed a hooker and he says he's proud of me. Honestly, I feel like if my life had gone a different direction is a thing that very possibly could have happened to me. It's probably good that he's dead.
Hey, great place to hide a body on the roof of an abandoned Kmart. I was thinking about that earlier today.
Why do you say that? Because I live very close to an abandoned Kmart.
Hey, if you got a hooker you need to get rid of.
Should I be checking that roof for corpses? That's a really good idea.
I know, isn't
that's
it?
Terrifying. That's really... I guess all it takes is a helicopter.
Maybe.
Throw a blanket over it.
Yeah.
Are we going to be in jail? Are we going to be in jail for this?
No, not unless you've killed. I haven't, recently.
No, I haven't. Never. I have never killed.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck.
Sure.
Meanwhile, Cleo is trying to time herself drying off super fast to beat the mermaid transformation, but she can't do it. She tries to dry off in 10 seconds. And this is where I noticed where, like, normally when they transform, they turn into water, or if they're in water, the water gets, like, really bubbly, so you can't see the transition. You never see, like, the legs morph into the tail, which I think is the right call.
Yes.
Because that would just be shitty CGI. You find a way to hide it, and then you put them in the tail, and boom, done, fine. That's fine. I have no problem with that.
No problem with that.
So normally they turn into water, which is like a CGI effect that just totally like it's like a human form water, and then they're in their mermaid getup. But in this case, we don't see her turn into a mermaid because she's wearing a wetsuit and like a hairnet, and she's trying to beat the transformation by drying off really fast. But we see that she doesn't make it, and like we only see her top half. We hear like a magic, and then she like says, "Oh no," and falls over. So assumingly she has the tail, but like she didn't get her mermaid bikini or her clothes were still there. So it seems to have rules, like I said, based on what the needs of the scene are. Which, I mean, whatever. It's if they used it to solve problems, I would be annoyed. But if it's just like a visual gag, okay, fine, whatever.
Right. And, you know, again, with limited budget, limited props and CG budget and stuff like that, there's only so much you can do. So these are kind of old school camera tricks where in big budget movies now they can just do everything CGI and you never have to like think of a creative way around it, which is kind of a lost art. So I appreciate it in a way.
Right, and this is a 2000s, and also, you know, I don't really know anything about how Australian television or filmmaking works, so I don't know what the budget could be like. I don't know what channel it was on. I don't know. It was popular. I mean, popular enough that there was demand for another season, and like I said, the people here know of it. And, like, my friend Hydra in Australia knew of it immediately, and he said, like, his sister would watch it, and, you know, so it's like it's a known thing, and so, I don't know. I don't know, like, what they were working with. And those details haven't, you know, I can't find the details of an episode cost anywhere or anything, but, like, I think as far as the effects go overall, there's one I want to complain about on episode 3, but as far as the effects go, it's pretty good. They do a great job with what they had, just like with the tails.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so like I said, it's dependent on the need of the scene is how the transformation works, but normally they get like a bikini, like a bikini top that's like the same. I don't think it's part of them. I don't know if they have human tits under there or not, but like it's the same scales as the tail. So I don't know if it's supposed. I mean, obviously it's a show aimed at 10-year-olds, so they don't really go into the details of are there human breasts under there, which I'm curious about only on a biological level, not on a sexual level.
You know, I was wondering if there were breasts under those scales.
When you say it in Mengele's voice, it just makes everything worse.
Let me get my scalpel and I will find out.
This would be a far different movie if the villain was Joseph Mengele trying to get the mermaids for his collection. Oh, God. So at the Rainforest Cafe knockoff again, Bucket Hat comes up to Ricky and starts trying to talk about Cleo. He complains about her changing her mind over and over, and we figure out that Bucket Hat obviously likes Cleo. He manages to piss Ricky off by being a jerk. He's like kind of casually jerky to her, and she's getting angrier and angrier. She starts boiling his soda. So it turns out she does have a power. She can use her anger to make water hot and boil.
That makes sense.
It occurs to me that if they wanted, all three girls could become a terrifying force for evil by manipulating blood in horrible, horrible ways.
This is true.
All three ways that these girls can... It's basically blood bending from Avatar to bring Avatar up for weirdly, I think the third time today.
Maybe instead of dissecting you, you could work together with me.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I wish I was a supervillain, but not Dr. Mengele. I didn't want to call him Doctor. He was... Ricky
he's a jerk-off.
Talking in mermaid form at Bucket Hat's secret fishing hole when he shows up with his fishing gear. He asks them if they're naked again, and they tell him they're having girl talk and to get lost. He says he needs to fish. He's having withdrawals. Look, I told you, man.
Yeah, okay.
Bucket Hat guys fish. When I wore a bucket hat, I fished. Not well, because I'm me, but I fished. You wear a bucket hat, you gotta fish.
Yeah, it's a law.
He tells them to get lost, but eventually the whole thing turns into talk about Cleo, who texts Bucket Hat and tells him that she's going to the party after all. Emma and Ricky browbeat Bucket Hat into going to check on Cleo. We cut to Cleo arriving at the party. She claims she has a cold and is dressed up in, like, cold weather gear. Popular, like a coat and a scarf and gloves and blah, blah. Popular girl is a bitch to her, but eventually lets her come into the pool anyway, just so they have somebody to make fun of. Speaking of, obvious villain is here, of course, and he and his lackeys grab her and throw her into the water, but not before surrounding her, chanting her name like a creepy rape cult. I don't know. Obvious villain is like, somehow in all the movies I've watched, besides the rapist from Cabin Fever, obvious villain is like the most sociopathic person.
Yikes.
In anything I've ever seen. He is a terrifying young man.
Huh.
I don't know. Something about him really rubs me the wrong way. So the partygoers all head inside while Bucket Hat goes to check on Cleo. He shows up right as Cleo gets tossed into them. She tells him not to freak out as she turns into, of course, a fucking mermaid. Where do their clothes go when they transform?
You like this show.
Yeah, man. It's not bad. Anyway, Cleo begs Bucket Hat for help, and despite being freaked out, he agrees. The other girls show up. Emma freezes the lock on the door, so the other partygoers can't escape. So does the lock have water in it, or can she just freeze things at will? Jesus Christ, Isaac, can she freeze things at will?
There's no way she could. Fuck? No. Water manipulating girl would have to manipulate the water to the lock and then... No, I hate this. This is stupid.
This is not the last time she will freeze something, and the next time's even worse. Emma and Ricky admit they're mermaids too, so they can't help Cleo out of the water. And Bucket Hat will have to do it. The partygoers are figuring out how to head back outside, so time is of the essence. Ricky uses her power to basically cook Cleo and thus steam all the water off of her. She's back in her clothes she transformed in, so I guess they just mold into your body like they did with Animorphs. That's right. I read Animorphs. It was the same time as I was wearing a bucket hat. It's astonishing I wasn't bullied to death. As a final revenge on the bullies, Ricky boils all the water out of the pool as our heroes escape. And as they leave...
Larry,
what?
No. That can't be. It's not how boiling works.
What do you mean? Well, no, I mean, she, like, heats it up so it evaporates. I said boiling because
No, I know, but if you set a pot half full on your stove and just had it on full blast, it would take hours to empty.
Isaac, you're complaining that the girl who is a mermaid with magic powers is not able to manipulate the water in such a way that she can't boil out of a pool in an instant.
You know, I didn't want to bring it up, but this is a science alert, and I am a doctor.
You're not. You're not a doctor, Mengele.
Yes, I got my doctor from the School of Evil.
You know, I actually teach a class there.
Oh, yes.
I teach a class on villainy at the School of Evil.
Oh, yes, I only have a bachelor's in villainy. I could do with the master's.
Oh, my God. As they leave, our heroes see Hunky Byron heading to the beach, telling them he's not really into parties, and the partygoers are jerks anyway, because he is, like, if this was D&D, he'd be a paladin. He is the paragon of goodness, and also he's got abs you could grate cheese off of.
Oh, God. I don't like thinking that.
Emma tells the gang she quit the swim team, which for her is a big step. We get another rah-rah team rolling this together scene, now with Bucket Hat as the token human member, and the episode comes to a close. So the episodes 1 and 2 kind of are more of a setup for the plot itself, and episode 3 is more what I assume, which we're going to get to in a second, more what I assume like a regular episode of the show is like. It's okay. There's still like, it's not like it goes from pilot to show where then it's, you know, like the pilot of any show is sort of the setup, and then everything else after that it's like, oh yeah, you're in this precinct now and you've been here for years. It's still, they're still learning about the mermaid powers and whatnot.
Okay.
But I feel like the plot is more of it's like more contained than the other two were.
Okay. That makes sense. And that's like kind of standard for sitcoms these days where there is kind of an overarching thing more so than there used to be. But at the same time, it does end up getting pretty episodic, even though there might be some through-line stories.
This seems a little where it starts to pick up to be a little more episodic.
Yeah.
It's still, like, there's still, you know, Cleo still hasn't swam as a mermaid since, like, the first time, so there's still, like, and that's a big through-line in this episode, but, yeah, so, but it's a little more, like, this is the first one. The pool party is kind of a self-contained story, but still it's more about the fact that, like, oh shit, we can't touch water, how do we deal with this? Whereas this next episode is definitely, it's a story that begins and ends in the episode, and then, like, the mermaid stuff is happening along with that.
Okay. All right, well, I'm excited for episode 3.
Okay, so episode 3, and our final episode, Catch of the Day.
Oh, Lord almighty, that name.
We see Cleo's family at home watching a show about great white sharks. We learn that Dad is a fisherman. Sister and Mom don't matter, so I'm ignoring them. Sister's a little twerp, and I choose to continue to ignore her from her earlier scenes where she was pounding on the door, and I hope that she gets bitten by a raccoon and gets rabies. So we see Ricky and Emma are... Oh, no, I'm sorry. They're watching the show about sharks, and the sharks get into a feeding frenzy, and Cleo is obviously disgusted because she's like a fish now, I guess. I don't know.
Right. Okay.
Again, it's the same thing with, like, where does the fish meat start and the human meat end? We see Ricky and Emma are swimming around doing mermaid tricks. We definitely get a little bit of recycled episode 1 footage, which I only noticed because I watched them back-to-back and also twice, and also a couple of those scenes are also in the opening, so I've seen them a bunch. Again, TV show, limited budget, 4 kids, whatever. The two of them meet with Bucket Hat to boast about being able to hold their breath for 15 minutes, which means I guess they can't breathe underwater, which is another question I was going to ask, so good on them for answering it. Cleo shows up and is despondent about the whole thing because she hates swimming and is afraid of water. And this is what I mean about them being more three-dimensional than just saying, like, oh, Cleo's dopey, oh, Emma's bossy, like, this, I really like this idea that Cleo is a mermaid. You know, she's a teenage girl. She's right in the pocket. She lives in a seaside town. She's, like, right in the pocket for where being a mermaid would be awesome, you know? But she's absolutely terrified of water and, like, hates it. And the whole thought of it is, like, completely the antithesis of anything she wants. And it's, like, really causing a schism in her life. That
seemed really dumb when you first said it, but thinking about the actual characterization and the personal struggle of it, that is actually somewhat interesting. I'll give you that.
And it's done well, too, because, like, she shows up, they're at the fucking rainforest or whatever, and they're like, talking about it, and they're like, oh, man, the reef is so cool, and there's all these bomb-ass fish, and, like, we're eating each other's pussies under there. I'm sorry, I can't, it's not,
I don't have pussies.
Sometimes.
The pussies go away.
I know, I'm sorry, sometimes I get in a tangent. It's been a long quarantine. So they're, like, talking about how awesome it is, and she's like, did you guys do the calculus homework? And she's, like, clearly very bummed. Like, it's not only that she's just like, oh, water is bad, this sucks. She's, like, genuinely bummed out about the whole thing. And she does a good job of, like, expressing that it's a major fucking bummer, because also she has no friends besides these two, which she just met Ricky, like, a week ago. and they're like having this great time figuring out about their bodies and basically, going through mermaid puberty, basically. And she's like absolutely terrified. I don't think it's as deep as that. I'm not going to say this is like a deep cut impact, like conversation about puberty. That I could draw a line from A to B, but I don't think it's that deep. It's a goddamn kids show to show at 3 p.m. Like,
right.
They're not. I don't think we're doing that. But they do a good enough job with these characters, and like mostly Cleo gets the most time in these 3 episodes. But like Emma too, when they talk, like the way she talks about not being on the swim team anymore, she's literally has to be this like, well, now what do I do with the rest of my life? And like same thing with Ricky. Doesn't really get. She's kind of the same. Like she doesn't really change at all in this. But I mean, this is 3 episodes of an 80 episode show, so I mean, I'm sure she probably has a dead mom or a strange dad or something that gets revealed in episode 10 because she's a rebel with no fear. So that's always the fucking payoff there is, her dad left her or her mom's dead or some shit.
Right.
It's not, the writing's not that clever. But, and again, this is not the greatest example of this stuff I've ever seen, but I was surprised.
It doesn't need to be for this show.
No, and I'm surprised how well it's done for like a show for 10-year-old girls, basically. Like,
yeah, okay. All right.
It's surprisingly well done and like nuanced enough that it caught me off guard.
I'm still going to be upset when I hear what your rating is. I'm sure, but you're
probably.
I'm feeling a little better.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I said. It's evident more than a movie because it's a show with more time. But the fact that it's done early and relatively well, like the nuance with these characters is. It's impressive to me in a way, just because again, it's you could very easily just make this a show where fucking Mermaid Zordon of Power Rangers fame is like, you girls are mermaids now. You've got to stop the evil Mermaidio who's spreading pollution in the ocean with his shit, and like they have to go on fucking mermaid missions. But it's a show about like 3 girls who their lives are basically revolve around water because they live in a fucking ocean town and they can't touch water anymore. Or they're mermaids. I don't know. I really got caught off guard by how good this was. Anyway, we'll get into it later. So Emma and Ricky try to convince Cleo to come enjoy their powers with them, but she wants nothing to do with it. At school the next day, hunky surfer Byron tells Cleo to come down to the beach, talking about the sea turtles laying eggs. Apparently, he heard a rumor that one of the turtles got caught in a net and dragged out to sea, and he then just like fucking lumbers off like Sasquatch, just giving the plot of the episode and is never seen again. I don't know who told him this rumor. How is a rumor going around town? So what this means is that someone who had caught a turtle said, "Oh, hey mate, I fucking caught a turtle," and no, that accent's gone. Caught a turtle and fucking cracked the shell open and ate it with a spoon. Pass it on. I don't know. Like, it's a weird thing to hear a rumor about, which makes me think he's a secret mermaid. But that's in my I'll see that from my fan blog.
Okay.
So Bucket Hat comes over to try to console Cleo about being down in the dumps, but she denies even being a mermaid because she's always hated the water, so she's just like basically going to plug her ears and say, la la la, I'm just going to have a normal life. The girls talk to one another and have basically the same conversation they had at the opening of the show. Don't know why we needed that twice. Cleo brings up the turtle that Hunky Byron mentioned. Ricky says that Cleo's dad, as a fisherman, is most likely the one netting the turtles. She kind of has, absolutely no basis for this allegation, but hey, it's a 24-minute show, I guess we need a drama, whatever. At home, Cleo suspiciously queries her dad about catching the turtles and in his nets. Dad fiercely denies it, telling her that his company does everything by the book. Without getting too deep into fishing lore, apparently there's special turtle-safe nets, or TSNs. It's like dick sucking lips. DSLs, TSNs,
Sure,
DSLs.
that makes sense.
Same thing. Exact same thing.
Yep. Larry, you son of a bitch.
I'm glad you agree. We cut to a boat out in the water. We see Ricky and Emma jetting around underwater at top speeds. And this is the first time I have a negative about the effects. Up until now, all the CGI, which they've not really... They could have very easily made this a CGI-heavy show, had them the money. But it's been fairly limited, and it was fine. It's nothing great. It's 2006 CGI, so it's on clearly a less of a budget, but it's perfectly serviceable. The two mermaids super swimming speed around is pretty rough. I don't know if it held up better back then, but boy, it doesn't hold up at all. It is.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I think they knew it too, because whenever they show that, because they showed it a couple times this episode, the camera's pulled back real far.
Okay.
Like,
well, at least they're
knew
conscious
that it was weak.
Yeah.
I'd be curious. Well, I'll let you know when I watch other episodes if they do more of that and if it gets any better or worse. But I think at least in this episode they like keep it pretty far off, so it's like, okay, yeah, that's fine.
We're hiding our flaws.
Yeah.
It's like Spanx.
Eventually the girl, yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Do they make boy Spanx?
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Okay, I need to look into that. Eventually the girls stop and see a turtle caught in a net from the boat we just saw. This is not a TSN, sorry. On the boat we see obvious boat villain, different from obvious villain because this one is on a boat. Obvious boat villain is yelling at his crewmate rigging the nets. Netflix wasn't able to understand the accent here and put in brackets inaudible for part of obvious boat villain's dialogue. Although I was able to understand it pretty easily. But yeah, it was pretty funny because I'm looking at this. I just think about a guy sitting at his desk replaying this Australian growl like 5 times in a row, just like fuck it, inaudible. But I understood what he said. It's not really, doesn't matter, but it's just, I thought that was comical. Ricky grabs a knife on the edge of the boat and uses it to cut the turtle free of the net, putting the knife back to allay suspicion as the turtle swims to freedom. At the Rainforest Internet Cafe, the girls are watching a news broadcast where the hole in the net has been attributed to, apparently, rogue sharks.
Rogue sharks. As opposed to orderly sharks?
Yeah, God forbid if the sharks ever organize, we're going to have the underwater fucking Holocaust any day now. Suddenly, we'll get
I never thought about taking it underwater.
Fucking A. I did this to myself. Suddenly, Cleo's dad shows up on the news as it was his net that got cut.
Oh, of course.
That means that it was his boats illegally catching turtles. Shock and alarm. However, we didn't see him on the boat, so clearly this is just a case of obvious boat villain sneakily using the wrong nets. And because obvious boat villain is an obvious boat villain, this is obvious. Again, I'm not expecting high-class writing here.
Right.
Ricky and Emma tell Cleo what happened and that her dad is lying to her. Cleo goes to one of his boats to confront him about what happened. Obviously, she can't tell him what actually happened, that her fucking mermaid friends freed a turtle from a net. But she still treats him as though he's obviously guilty, which he denies but doesn't really question. Obvious boat villain shows up and Dad asks if he can see the shredded net. Obvious boat villain has dumped it, however, to allay suspicion of his obviously nefarious deeds and intent. Back at the cafe, the girls talk again and sort of reiterate the last couple minutes of plot and tell Cleo that despite it being his boat, they didn't see her dad. Ricky and Emma lament that they can't swim while everyone is going to be out looking for the shark, so they can't possibly go swimming and get all speared up by trigger-happy fishermen. Quick scene with Bucket Hat and Cleo, where we're obviously pushing them closer to a relationship, but nothing to mention here for us. More reiterating stuff we already know, with added Bucket Hat, early stages of romance. That's great. I kind of hate Bucket Hat. He reminds me of a version of myself of things that go out very differently in my life. And
he's the Australian version of you, Larry.
I just don't need Bucket Hat in my life. Dude, fuck off, Bucket Hat. BH. Cleo and family have dinner and talk more about things we know already. Fish is for dinner, and Cleo doesn't want to eat it because, I guess, like I said, she's part fish now. Dad mentions that he wasn't on the boat that caught the turtles, so Cleo realizes that Dad might not be guilty after all. We see obvious boat villain on the boat telling his flunkies that they're going to fish at the illegal turtle grounds, name of my next coffee ground and or band. And they're going to use the unsafe turtle nets because he's evil. I guess to make more money that way. It's never explained, but I suppose that's the idea. That
right.
That it's better fishing grounds. I don't know anything about fishing. My bucket hat's in retirement.
Once again, capitalism rears its ugly head.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes. The dog's freaking out. Get out of here. Get out of here, boy. Go on. I don't want you anymore.
Tell him to get a job.
Yeah, I wish. Somebody in this house should work. So obvious boat villain is telling his flunkies they're going to fish the illegal turtle grounds, and Cleo had been she'd been following and overheard this, and Bucket Hat with his fucking fishing rod and tackle box just shows up. He's the magical fucking bucket hat boy. Just wherever you are, he's there with a fishing rod, and he can't fish, and he sure is cross about it. She tells him to warn the other girls while she dives in and chases the boat. She can't swim for shit and only doggy paddles underwater for a while before eventually her, I guess, mermaid instincts kick in, and she takes off after the boat. I don't fucking know.
God.
Blah, blah, blah. Stuff happens. Eventually, on the radar, they find a big blip and think it's the shark. It is, of course, Cleo, who gets tangled up in the net because why wouldn't she?
Of course.
Our hero. Bucket Hat gathers the other mermaids, and they head off after Cleo. The boatmen are about to bring Cleo up on board before Ricky and Emma zoom up. Somehow, underwater, without being able to see it, Emma manages to freeze the winch solid. Again, I question the extent of their powers.
Well, the winch is above water?
The winch is on the boat. I guess, okay. I guess, thinking about it now, the winch the cable was in the water, so that at least could be wet.
This is much, much easier to accept than the lock on a door.
Yes.
Anything on a boat, I can handle freezing.
Sure. The door thing is pretty dumb, and I don't understand the extent of their powers. I seriously think they could take over the world very easily if they just tried, because they're also, it seems to be limitless. Now, again, I only saw 3 episodes, and again, it's not a fucking Marvel show. It's a show about, high school life, so I doubt they're going to ever encounter a point where, like, they've reached the extent of their powers. Like, their power levels have reached 9,000, they need to take a nap to get their freezy powers back.
Right.
Know? So, they free Cleo from the net, and all 3 take off heroically. Later at the dock, we see Cleo talking to her dad, and then Dad confronts obvious boat villain about the nets. That night, he tells the family he fired obvious boat villain. He asks Cleo how she knew that he was an obvious boat villain, and she just says that the sea is full of mystery. And he accepts that, and they reconcile.
My God.
Next morning, Bucket Hat and the girls are looking at the turtle eggs on the beach, and then the girls take off for the water and all transform together, while Bucket Hat looks on and watches them, imagining how hard he's going to yank one off later at these girls in their bikinis, turning into mermaids in the surf. And that's it. That's episode 3.
Whew. Oh, boy.
So, my thoughts about H2O. Just add water. Honestly, it's fine. Like, this clearly was not made for me. And I've been very lenient with it because I enjoyed it. Obviously, it's designed for a different age group for me entirely. And it's not the fucking height of television writing. But it's meant for kids. And I'm always willing to forgive at least a little bit of like that. I'm willing to accept more chicanery and nonsense when it's meant for people who are younger.
Right, but you could still recognize it's what works about it, even though it's not in your wheelhouse.
No, I mean, it's dumb as hell. Clearly, it's not, no beating around it, but most shows made for kids are dumb as hell, even the good ones. I mean, fucking SpongeBob SquarePants is about a goddamn underwater fry-cooked sponge who wears a tuxedo. For Christ's, or not a tuxedo, like a suit.
Yeah.
A suit and tie. Like, it's all stupid, clearly. So, but like, recognizing that this was not for me, the characters are interesting enough, and the dynamic of them not being able to touch water is intriguing enough that I'm curious to know how they get around that. It's like...
I want to know when Mom tells one of them to do the dishes.
It's funny you say that, because I went right past it. At the beginning of episode 3... Cleo has to pay her little sister to do the dishes. And apparently it's been like the 3rd night in a row, and the sister starts extorting more money from her.
Okay.
I didn't bother because there's a lot to talk about. But, yeah, so like, I can see, maybe it's because I can see the way the show could have gone and how bad it might have been.
Yeah. That
helps me, like, apologize, I suppose, for the flaws it does have. Because, like, it's both a blessing and a curse, and like it's the 3 characters sort of, it's like the different spectrums of it. Now, obviously, it's not that deep, the writing, but like the framework for that is there, where Ricky is totally into it, and Cleo is totally against it, and Emma is like in the middle, where she loves it because it's swimmy stuff, and that's her whole fucking personality. but it's keeping her from her dreams. So that's like an interesting like skew of the three of them. I imagine it doesn't stay. I'm sure they are all super mermaid, awesome, happy time by the end of season 1. But whatever. We're not writing fucking Breaking Bad here. So
yes,
and I like how there's no villains besides like the fucking teen boy who's a sociopath, and I'm pretty sure is going to go on to murder thousands. Like I said, I'm glad there's no version of Zordon from the fucking Power Rangers that explains, like, you have the power of boiling water and you can freeze anything, apparently. Like, I'm glad they had to just figure it out. Like, they're just in a fucking grotto, the moon hits them, they become Sailor Scouts, basically, and then they've got to, like, figure out how to deal with this. It's, as far as live-action kids shows go, it's pretty solid. But, it's like, I can see why this was liked enough that people clamored for more. Obviously, I have no idea how well this holds up. I do know, and I won't spoil it for anyone who might want to watch this, one of the main 3 actresses is not in the entire run of the show due to some scheduling conflict or other. So I think at least one of the seasons, one of them is not there.
I wonder if they get killed off.
No, it's like traveling the world with their family or something.
Oh, okay.
I got spoiled with it from the Wikipedia article. It surprised me with how watchable it was.
Yeah.
Like, I feel about this sort of the way I feel about Supernatural. And I've talked about Supernatural in the show before. Supernatural's not a good show, but goddamn it if it's not watchable. And I've watched 15 goddamn seasons, mostly in the background while I do other stuff. And, like, yeah, same thing here. Like, I could put this on the background of me playing fucking Xenoblade Chronicles or something, and it'd be fine. Like, it'd be fine. I could do... That's, like... I don't know. I can just see myself doing that. It's compelling enough for what it is that, yeah, it's watchable, and I can see why people like it. And I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up watching the entire show, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to watch the entire first season.
That'll have to be a bonus episode when you report on your summary of the first season. Now, Larry,
if I watch the first season and I continue, I'll report on the entire show. If I stop at the first season, I'll report on that.
Now, Larry, my moment of truth here. What's your score out of 10?
Now, obviously, it's hard to give a rating for the entire show, naturally.
Yeah, for the first 3 episodes.
It's a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Larry.
Honestly, Isaac, here's the worst part. I originally put 6, and the more I think about it, I think I am invested enough that I want to see more of it. I'm going to watch more of it. No, I'm not going to watch more tonight. There's wrestling tonight. But I'm going to watch more of this. It hooked me. It hooked me in.
From what you've described, I am a lot more forgiving or inclined to be forgiving from how you've described it. But I can't imagine me thinking this is more than a 4 out of 10. And I am floored by you saying 7. You're disgusting. Who are you and what have you done with Larry?
I know, right? Isn't that weird?
Jesus.
Weird. I can recognize the parts of it that are good. It's like, it's not a show I would sit down and be like, I'd get a coffee and watch the show. I would put it on in the background, but I'm like a multitasker. I rarely do any one thing at once. I'm usually doing 3. So like that for me, that's most shows. But I might make an exception for like a BoJack or even Big Mouth. We talked about. I might, for a new season of that, I might sit down and actually like pay full attention to it. But a show like this, I can put it on in the background and be perfectly happy.
Good God.
You know what? I'm gonna say 6 out of 10.
No. You can't backtrack. No.
Yeah, I'm gonna backtrack.
You can't unkill a hooker, Larry. You got to put her on the roof of Kmart, put a carpet over her, call it a day.
I don't think these two are quite the same because there's a little because here's why I don't foresee me having the same thought about it by the time I finished watching the show. If I would watch the whole thing, I would bet you anything it doesn't hold up.
Okay.
I have a feeling
Most shows don't.
That a lot of me is invested in like the immediate mystery, and I bet you anything they fuck it up. Fuck it up in a way that somebody like me would stop being interested in.
Yeah.
Well,
now you have to report back because I need to know.
I am 100% going to watch all of season 1. We'll see about the rest of it.
You animal.
look, man, I don't like this either, okay? So far, the two things I have actually liked out of this show have been the package and H2O just add water.
Maybe you are a teenager. Maybe you're not an old man.
No, I'm such an old man. I hate everything else.
I don't know, man.
I hate everything else.
All right. Any final thoughts?
No, I think it's, you know, like I said, my last line here was, it was fine, and when it comes to the bowels of Netflix, I'll take fine any day.
That's a good point. All right, I'm going to wrap the show up quick before my browser crashes and we lose the whole episode.
Yeah, I think we're on borrowed time still.
Thank you so much for listening to the Bowels of Netflix. You can find us on the internet. You know how to fucking Google. You can figure it out. Send us an email, bowelsofnetflix@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Make sure to rate, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, hide your grandmother's medication. Stay tuned for next week's episode because I'll be reviewing a terrible movie that I can't remember the title of, but it's fucking stupid fantasy, involves dragons, and it was a financial catastrophe.
I can't wait.
I have to seriously go back and listen to Scales to remember the name of the movie, unless you remember.
Seventh Son.
Seventh Son. S-U-N or S-O-N?
S-O-N. It's about the seventh son of a seventh son. Apparently that's bad luck or some shit.
Seven's a good luck. Anyway, alright. Thanks for listening. Fuck you. Fuck you, Larry. You mermaid like an asshole.
Hey, Isaac.
Yeah.
Swim you later.
No, you son of a bitch. Alright, I'm gonna stop.